Sandeep, morning. Aisha and I were just discussing how the asset management space in India is evolving on the listed side, and also now that the representation in the markets is going up. You've been a part of asset management, industry for long. How are the business dynamics, competitive landscape, and the yields now?
So there was a phase in between where the regulator was trying to get the cost down for investors. So at that time, we saw that despite the assets moving up, the profitability was not moving up, and the sector underperformed significantly. I think the change started from beginning of last year, where I think that phenomena stalled or stopped, and that became was not no longer the focus of the regulator. I think now what's happening is that now profitability improvements could be real for the sector, and uh, the the part of the asset management company today is that the larger players are becoming larger. Very small asset management companies tend to become successful because people tend to prefer, especially with the SIP culture, to focus on the larger names. So overall, the space is well placed. Now, many of these stocks have actually doubled over the last few months. So to that extent, right now they seem to be fairly valued to me. But longer term, they should be fine.
Okay, that's the take coming in right now on how is it that one should be reading these AMC businesses. Uh, Sandeep, in the last 2 months, what's been your portfolio positioning? Anything that you may have added or profit taken from?
So we reduce exposure in the sugar space once the dynamics change because next 6 months are a bit uncertain. But subsequently things might be good, so we might add after a few months. We have added into stocks like the Voltas, Interglobe Aviation, because Voltas I believe is undervalued relative to growth prospects, and there will be a turnaround in performance next 2 3 years, and I believe it could perform like Lupin performed after the turnaround. So larger mid cap not doing well at a point of time, but revival is possible. And Interglobe Aviation, I think, is uniquely positioned in the Indian aviation space with the troubles of many of the other companies. And with fuel prices under control, I believe that profitability improvements could be stronger than what most anticipate.
Sandeep, what about your views on the latest note on the logistics sector that's come out by UBS? While they're talking about limited upside or a very cautious stance for the likes of an Adani Ports and a Concor, they believe that delivery has potential. They've pegged a target at about 500 rupees on this stock. Your view on stocks within this sector?
Yeah, overall, this is fine, but I think the growth has been relatively muted in the sense that it's not that these companies are growing at a very rapid pace. And delivery, I think it's more a question of trying to forecast a turnaround when it doesn't seem to be apparent, because even the last quarter results were disappointing and competitive intensity is strong in the space in which they operate. So let's see how it goes. Let's see whether they can also turn around like some of the other new gen companies got listed a couple of years back. But right now, it doesn't seem like.
Sandeep, time and again one wonders whether one needs to pause or ease off from railway and defense. And I'm going to talk about defense particularly here. I mean, yesterday Ramesh Damani as well was highlighting that within PSUs, defense is what's going to lead the charge. While you could debate about valuations being rich and the stocks having run up a lot already, but their order book continues to bloat almost on an everyday basis. There are some new order wins coming in, and the managements as well are now upping their guidance and revising them for as soon as FY24 itself. Anywhere you would look to add positions at the current levels?
So current level, I'm circumspect in buying because the run up has been so rapid, and these have become favorite stocks of many investors. Like even the speculative activity is very high. But on corrective move, stocks like HAL, stocks like BEL, or stocks in the even in the shipbuilding space, etc. I think all of them should do well longer term because the revenue visibility is so great that they will ultimately keep on performing. Now, for someone who owns, so I always say that for many of these sectors, for you, if you own, you should not be selling. But if you don't own, you should wait for some bad days of the market when there's corrective moves and there are sudden sell-offs to add.
The space which is doing very well, Sandeep, is between the QSR slash beverage space. Varun Beverage now wants to diversify into South Africa. You also saw Devyani talk about going to Thailand. How do you analyze these strategies by these companies? Because our domestic markets, have they been exhausted enough for growth that they are wanting to go abroad? Because the street wants more answers on that. We've been trying to get more, but how do you analyze this move?
Yeah, for someone like Varun Beverages, because they are going into an existing client, which is like for Pepsi, then it's not such so much of a concern now. We don't know the dynamics of that market, etc. So we have to rely more on what the company says or do more research on that. So I think that should be fine now. How much they are spending to get into it vis-a-vis the returns they'll get is something we need to still analyze. But overall, it seems okay. For QSR companies getting into other countries, I think that's more a tougher thing because they are expanding rapidly here also, and then they want to get into other countries. And we've seen in the past that many of these companies have got into other countries, then suffered due to slowdown, forex changes, etc. I'm not sure if it was Devyani only which took a hit because of the Nigeria currency crisis. I guess it's Devyani only. So I think those are the issues investors need to keep in mind.
Actually, that was Sapphire. Sapphire had exposure in Sri Lanka, right? And Sri Lanka had a major issue.
Economic crisis,
Yes.
yeah.
The stock has not been able to come back to that level as well even now. Though it is off lows, it went to 1200 odd, but still it's kind of, quite away from the recent top it made. All right. So beyond that, the other thing I wanted to discuss, Sandeep, with you is there is a view in the market that the way dollar index is crashing, metals is a very good play. The other camp believes that since US and China growth is under question, it will be reduced to a trade only. You better not get into some of these names for the long term because the outlook is very disinflationary for commodities. Which side of the camp, and how would you approach metals in this debate?
Yeah, the second point is absolutely right, and you analyze the entire thing in a single line very well because if economies are going to slow down and the slowdown seems to be likely, like even in the US yesterday, as data on jobs or Nike's result where they are indicating softer consumer demand. So economies are slowing down. Now traders are excited because interest rates have peaked out and they believe that at some stage rates will be cut, etc. But then uh, rates will be cut when the economy slows down. When the economy slows down, then it impacts earning growth also. So, so I think that's the tougher picture right now. So metal, yes, I would think that they have underperformed so much. There is possibility of a trading rally in 2024, but I think it will be just a trading rally.
To go, and we should be hitting those pre-open rates as well. Sandeep, two stocks, which have been the underperformers. One has been pinning their hopes for a while now on a recovery in them. Reliance and HDFC Bank. And especially the price action that one has seen in the last 2 days on both these names. And we can just pull up, the delivery data as well and the kind of price action that we've seen on both these names. The fact that HDFC Bank day before as well did not fall at all. Yesterday was leading the recovery, and the move that Reliance made yesterday. Do you think these are going to be the stocks for, the next interim move of the market?
So HDFC Bank is coming out back after a long period of underperformance. So because valuations at some stage fell much below quota, even slightly below in the ICICI Bank at some stage. But now I think with the recovery and underperformance of ICICI Axis, that valuation gap is more or less bridged. My view on private sector banking is they very little to distinguish one bank from the other today because most have NPAs under control, most are growing at a steady clip. So I think it's just a valuation thing. So if people are owning some other bank like Axis or ICICI or any other private sector bank, there's no reason to shift to HDFC Bank, as used to be the phenomena a few years back where those banks are grappling with the NPA issues. So I think that's my take on the banking side. On Reliance specifically, it's underperformed so much. Reasons are tough to gauge because if the reason was that they are doing too much of capex, etc., then many of the very capex intensive businesses, even the Adani Group, etc., it's performed very well. So it's intriguing why the stock has underperformed so much, and the underperformance itself leads us to believe that 2024 it should ideally be doing better.
Sandeep, the other part of the market is also wondering about, the PSU rally at large, and I'm going to keep banks out of that because they actually have underperformed somewhat, led by SBI. But, they're wondering whether next year is going to be as good for the PSU pack, or do you think we're pretty much getting toppish, at least in the near term, with the PSU rally?
So the PSU really started with the better performing sectors like companies in defense and to some extent in railways, where actually there's been a fundamental change in terms of the growth pattern. Then it's percolated down to all kind of PSUs where in some cases there's no improvement at all. So so I think people need to be careful what they are buying. It cannot continue like this, and many of the PSU companies are trading at a significant premium to similar large private sector companies today. So I think it's tough to give this kind of valuation premium to PSUs because generally the way they operate and the bureaucratic structure, etc., still remains. So some sectors will obviously in the PSU basket will continue to do well, but not the entire space as it's done in this year.
Okay, Sandeep, always good to chat with you. Thanks for taking the time out and joining in. I didn't ask you, have you watched Salar or going to watch Donkey?
Yeah, Dunki tomorrow.
Okay, great. Enjoy. We'll take the review on Monday or actually Tuesday, given that it's a long weekend. But